Okay, good afternoon, everyone. For our attendees using the Zoom platform, kindly inform your friends who are not able to enter the room to join us through our Facebook Live at facebook.com/STII library. Should you have friends also who were not able to receive our email invitation, kindly inform them to join us in the live streaming. There were email invitations we sent that bounced back because either the email address provided was incorrect or full inbox of the recipient. Thank you so much. Okay, so while waiting for the others to join us, kindly go to menti.com and answer this question. Okay, so from where are you? You can just write your province. If you have, or if we have participants outside the Philippines, kindly write your country. So based on our registration list, majority of registrants are students, teachers and professors, librarians, admin, and human resource staff and aides, and from various industries. So let's see, based from your answers in Menti, where you are from. Okay, so again, for our Zoom participants, kindly join us in the menti.com. Hey, so for those who were not able to see the code for Menti is 88699234. Hey, so we have here from Quezon City, from Laguna, Makati City, Davao City. Wow. Okay, we have from Laguna, from Leyte, from Sultan Kudarat. Hey, amazing. Cagayan de Oro City, from Batangas. We also have here from Baguio City. Okay, ang sarap bumisita sa Baguio ngayon. We have from Pampanga, from Pasay, from Isabela. We also have here from Bacolod City. Okay, so ang pinakamarami pa rin, we have from Quezon City. Sila ang nangunguna. Wow. Okay, so it is so nice to know that we have participants here from all over the Philippines, and we wish to have with us our friends from other countries. Hey, for those who speak Ilocano, naimbag nga malam kada tayo amin. For our friends in the Visayas and Mindanao region, maayong hapon sa inyong tanan. And I am sorry, I don't know how they say that in other dialects. Hey, for our international friends, it is our pleasure to have you with us. So, how's your February, the so-called month of love? You can chat your answers to, sa ating mga Zoom participants. You can chat your answers. So, how is, it's not was, no, it is, kasi February pa naman ngayon. So, how's your month of love? Eh, pula ba o bughaw? Okay, so, yan, wala pang sumasagot. Okay. Pula. Okay, from Sir Michael, pula daw ang kanyang February. Okay. And from Sir Vincent, bughaw. Okay. So, bughaw is blue, pula, red. Okay. So, okay, I hope everyone, gray. Okay. So, I hope we all have a very good, very colorful February, even if there were some gray areas, but still we were able to thrive, right? Okay, so thank you so much for answering our question. Hey, again, welcome and good afternoon, everyone. Hey, for us here in STII, February is full of love. And it is our hope that this webinar will keep us get closer together, no matter the distance. Hey, to start with our session, may I request everyone, wherever you are, to please rise for the Philippine National Anthem.
Let's put ourselves in the loving presence of the Lord. Dear Almighty and ever-loving God, we glorify and thank Thee, your name. You have showered us with so much blessings, and your presence continually reminds us of your faithfulness and guidance. We humbly ask you to shower our speakers today with your greatest inspiration so that they may share the most of their knowledge, heart, and soul to their respective topics. May we also absorb the invaluable knowledge, experiences, and put it into practice what we may learn today. We pray that you bless us all the committees in charge that they may be able to fulfill their task responsibly, that the objectives they have set may all be achieved. Your infinite blessing would mean the success of this webinar. May we be a living witness of your genuine love through the enactment of the knowledge acquired through this activity. We ask this in the presence of our Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Okay, so we may now be seated. Okay. Let me introduce myself. I am Irene Alice Brillo, your moderator for today, and I am an FBI. Okay, so do you know what FBI means in the highlights? Okay, it means full-blooded Igorot. So if you have not seen an Igorot yet, you are now seeing one. Virtually though. Ay, so I am from Kabayan Benguet with a mixed blood of Kankanaay from Sibungan, and it is so great to know that I have kababayans here from Benguet. Allow me to greet you in our dialect. Ahead ni Madam Higatay Nanin. Mayat ay Masdam, and natako amin. With me today are my team. Ay, when I say your name, kindly open your cam and wave. We have our division chief, Mr. Alan C. Taule. Ms. Keishan Eunice Romulo, our Science Research Specialist 2. Our Supervising Science Research Specialist and Head Librarian, Ms. Linderlip M. Maglake. Mr. Elmar Generalao, Science Research Analyst. And we have our technical support team, Mr. Lloyd Frederick R. Mandapat, Science Research Specialist 2. Okay, and then Mr. Rainer Manumbali Zagada, Computer Operator 3. And finally, Mr. Mark Jason Olvida Seaton, Computer Operator 3 of the Information Technology Unit. Okay, now, in order for us to have a smooth flow of our session, let me give you the following house rules. This webinar will be recorded for documentation purposes, and the recording will be sent to your email address along with your e-certificate. In asking your question, okay, next one, in asking your question, Kindly use the Q&A chat box for our Zoom participants and use the comment box for our FB Live participants. You may start posting your questions while the talk is ongoing. Third, we will require everyone to accomplish our evaluation form just before this webinar ends. Only those who successfully finish the webinar and accomplish the evaluation form will be provided with certificates. Let me repeat. Only those who will successfully finish the webinar and accomplish the evaluation form will be provided with certificates. Kindly note that we will not be entertaining email or Facebook messages asking for the webinar evaluation link. This is because we believe that those who will be able to finish this webinar will see the link that will be posted afterwards. Again, the webinar evaluation link will be posted just before the webinar ends. Gentle reminder also, in posting your e-certificate online, can you cover or blur the signature? Also, please double check your email addresses before submitting your accomplished feedback form. This is to avoid failure of email delivery. For this webinar, please expect your certificate on or before March 15, 2021. Our working days are from Mondays to Thursdays, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we observe 4 days work week. And finally, please remember to be polite, pay attention, and actively participate. At this juncture, may I call on our division chief, Mr. Alan Sertaule, to formally welcome you in today's webinar.
Thank you, Irene. Good afternoon, everyone. And it is my privilege to welcome our guests and participants comprising of students, teachers and professors, fellow library professionals, and professionals from the allied fields. Today, we have gathered virtually, that is, for the second session conducted under the DOST-STII Library Webinar Series. And this webinar holds much interest and promise, especially to those who continue to grapple with one of the new and emerging realities brought about by COVID-19 and the restrictions imposed to halt or mitigate its spread. I'm almost certain that we have all experienced being in a virtual meeting or asked to present our thoughts, ideas, lessons in a virtual environment. And then we find that the platform itself poses quite a number of unique challenges that we have little or no prior experience dealing with. In response, we at the Library Service of DOST Science and Technology Information Institute organized this webinar with the title, How to Speak on a Digital Stage and Capture the Limelight, to help you shine instead of flicker in the dark like a candle in the wind, as the old song goes. This webinar will be presented by no less than the director, our head of agency here at DOST-STII, Mr. Richard Burgos, who will bring to the fore his many years of experience in corporate and marketing communications. And I urge you pay close attention if you wish to become more adept, more confident, and thereby more successful in capturing the limelight in the digital stage. In general, this is the time for everyone to become more adept in using technology to communicate and collaborate. At a time when experts say that the speed of technological advancement rose dramatically due to the exponential demand for virtual contactless applications. Entire organizations across the world are now suddenly required to work remotely from home for an indefinite period of time. This unprecedented global event has made it more important than ever to face the challenges that come with being a part of a virtual team. This environment is forcing everyone and every institution, including government agencies, to adapt in ways that are unprecedented. If you are finding difficulties dealing with the virtual side of work, then this webinar is made for you. We hold that it is possible to work successfully within a virtual environment by communicating clearly to your audience to maintain and even increase our effectiveness. This webinar will show you how. Again, welcome to all our participants, and I hope we all have a lively, productive session. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much for that very warm welcome, Sir Alan. I now, to give you a background information of DOST-STII, we would like to show this video with the title, 8
The year
Lessons from the
2020
Pandemic, the Experience of DOST-STII.
The year 2020 was definitely memorable. So memorable, in fact, that it had to be named twice, 2020. In this duality, many would consider it a year of the great upset when so much was lost, incomes, jobs, travel, even lives. But it could also be the year of the radical reset as it became the fulcrum towards going more fully digital. The Science and Technology Institute of the Department of Science and Technology is one of the smallest of the 18 agencies of the department. Our budget is very small, a mere 0.48% of the entire DOST budget in 2020. Our regular plantilla is only 64, and yet, amidst the pandemic, we found out that with our little mandate to keep a science and technology library, to communicate science for the people, and to capacitate our stakeholders, that we actually have a big voice. Now, from the numbers, we realize it was not a bad year after all. We may have lost a lot in 2020, but we did not lose the lessons. In fact, we learned a lot. Here are the 8 lessons we learned from this most challenging environment imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Lesson number 1, in adversity, remember your friends. Early in the quarantine period, we realized that many of our media contacts and friends lost income opportunities and even their jobs. So we dug into our personal pockets to send them food packs. You know, the food packs were not even enough to feed them for a few days, but I am certain they created goodwill that will last for a long, long time. We organized a virtual memorial for one of them who passed away. And we engaged our friends in many virtual pressers and interviews so they can report stories on science and technology. We became very good at doing virtual meetings that, in fact, DOST-STII became the go-to team to assist other agencies of DOST in their initial virtual meetings and conferences. Lesson number 2, make size matter. We did not consider size a liability. Instead, we focused on our strengths. We leveraged our 2 major programs, Starbooks, a digital S&T library in a box, and DOST-TV, our broadcast program for radio, television, and online platforms. Both programs were included in the National Priority Plan of the National Economic and Development Authority for 2020. There were only 6 projects included in that list, and 2 are from our institute. Both programs, incidentally, are also digital natives. Starbucks was rolled out 10 years ago after digitizing the resources in DOST-STII's library. Once digitized, these valuable S&T content became more accessible and portable to users, especially in remote and economically challenged schools and communities. Now, on February 14, 2020, a month before the lockdown, the Department of Education signed a memorandum of agreement with DOST-STII, adopting Starbucks and including it in their Learning Commons. By December, 4,962 units of Starbucks kiosks have been deployed throughout the country. We developed 3 mobile apps last year to make Starbucks even more accessible on Android gadgets. And by year-end, while our physical library facilities were shuttered by the quarantine, more than 2 million people accessed our contents online. DOST-TV, on the other hand, began live streaming in 2016 as a science and technology broadcast program. Eventually, it went on television via PTV4, GMA7, and GNN cable channel. We were also on Radio Pilipinas Uno. So we overcame the limitations of our size to produce results that matter for the Institute, for DOST, and for the whole country. Lesson number 3, identify your spokesperson and be heard above the din. DOST is a house of experts, but only 3 were designated official spokespersons for the department: Secretary Boy, Yusek Gev, and Yusek Rene. Now, having designated spokespersons makes it easier for the media and the public to relate with the organization, and also for the organization to have a source of information that is authoritative, credible, and reliable. For SecBoy, we created early in his term #ScienceForThePeople as the tagline of his administration. Today, more than 6,000 Facebook users are using the hashtag, helping us to get the Secretary's voice heard above the din. Lesson number 4, pivot. If at first you don't succeed, pivot. We do not need excuses even in disasters because we really need to deliver on our major final outputs. Agility is key to successfully communicate science with the people in a pandemic. We need to be able to recast our plans and programs to adapt to the shifting circumstances and capture new opportunities. Our broadcast programs with the networks were no longer tenable and had to be suspended because of quarantine restrictions. So we immediately reverted to live streaming to keep the public informed. Eventually, the weekly DOST Report live stream became the platform for SecBoy to share the latest developments in S&T and for our media friends to pick their story leads. The annual National Science and Technology Week celebration had to be conducted entirely online for the first time in November 2020. Our social media campaign for people to participate in NSTW reached more than 1 million people compared to a few thousands in previous editions. With influencers, we had almost 1 million views on TikTok. For our own internal learning and development programs, we also resorted to online courses and webinars and trained 91% of our staff. Lesson number 5. There is no longer any security of tenure in government service. It is performance that counts and continuous improvement that leads to quality management excellence. In the pandemic, we need to innovate, to go beyond the usual, to create greater value added. This became really more acute. To enhance our capability to perform and deliver on our mandates, we collaborated with partners who provided support in terms of additional resources, content, expertise, and their own networks. Lesson number 6, excel. Surprisingly, amid the pandemic, we harvested a good crop of recognition and awards. Starbucks and DOST were included in the 2020 National Priority Plan. DOST-TV received 3 anvils from the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. It also bagged 4 Gandingan Awards from UP Los Baños, including the most development-oriented radio, TV, online platform. And it was a finalist in 2 categories of the Catholic Mass Media Awards 2020. The Commission on Audit gave DOST-STII an unqualified opinion on our financial statements. This is the highest audit rating for a government institution. DOST-STII also maintained our 9001-2015 ISO accreditation with no nonconformities and 2 best practices. So, Pivot, Perform, and Excel became our PPE during the pandemic, enabling us to survive and even thrive through this most difficult period. Lesson number 7, monitor, evaluate, recalibrate. The pandemic underscored the need for data to drive our communication efforts. Our staff understand this, but we were also fortunate to engage external organizations to assist us in monitoring, analyzing, and reporting our media efforts and their impacts. They truly added value. They boosted our confidence and helped us win. In 2016, we had no benchmark to establish the national level of awareness about science and technology in the country. We established in 2017 that it was at the very low 6%. We determined to double that in 2018, and we got to 13%. This went up to 16% in 2019 and jumped 7 percentage points to 23% in the time of the pandemic. We delivered 1,045 promotion services and generated 1.5 billion pesos worth of media coverage. Lesson 8. Be grateful. We're still here. The most important lesson we learned from this pandemic is gratitude. It is the attitude that opens us up to the work of other people, to the needs of the community, to the divine dimension, in order to realize what is truly valuable in our lives and in our jobs, to enable us to receive more blessings and to begin the process of healing. We are grateful that our workplace is safe and clean and that no one got infected by the virus here. We are still here. And we are even more deeply committed now to communicate science for the people because it is what allows us to hope, to thrive, and to succeed. Thank you, and keep safe, everyone.
So that's us, the DOST-STII. We are one of the smallest agency of the Department of Science and Technology, but we work with our PPE amidst the pandemic. So we did pivot, perform, and finally excel. And we wish to continue serving you, our clients, in the best way we can. And this webinar is one of them. Okay, before we proceed to our session proper, may I repeat that all participants, both in the Zoom and FB Live, will be given certificates provided that you accomplish our evaluation form. Kindly inform your friends who are not able to enter the Zoom platform to join us through the FB Live. Thank you. Ay, excited na ba kayo? Can I see a thumbs up from our Zoom participants? And a yes from our viewers? Ay, yes. Okay, so we are ready. Hey, thank you. And I am excited too. one of the in today is speaking in the digital stage, right? And I believe this is already part of the new normal. As for me, as a librarian who is not usually facing numerous audiences, I usually have this anxiety when I speak in front of audience. So just like now, maybe because I am not so confident with myself. So without much ado, let me introduce to you our speaker for today. A seasoned communicator with over 35 years of progressive responsibility in large international, multinational, and national organizations for such areas as corporate communications, public relations, marketing, broadcasting, brand management, corporate social responsibility, corporate governance, risk management, events management, publications, speechcraft, and general office management, our speaker exhibits a keen appreciation of the role of effective communications and collaboration at the processor, individual contributor, team, and leadership levels within a connected, globalized environment. He brings this appreciation to create added value to the organizations that he works for, including the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, an international research for development center based in Hyderabad, Telangana, India, the Enchanted Kingdom, and some of the world's leading IT companies, such as IBM, HP, and Sun Microsystems, the Department of Science and Technology, and the University of Negros Occidental Recoletos, where he began his career as a Spanish language instructor. Along with being the director of the Science and Technology Information Institute of DOST, he is an active member of the International Public Relations Association, or IPRA. He is a volunteer for the NGO Bahay Tuluyan and supports programs to help blind children acquire computer literacy skills through Resources for the Blind Incorporated and adaptive technology for the rehabilitation, integration, and empowerment of the visually impaired. With pride and honor, let us welcome Director Richard P. Burgos.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And I see a lot of people joining our call, and they're from all over the Philippines, from as far north as Cagayan, to as far south as General Santos. It's really such an exciting time to come together. I see that there are more than 500 people in our Zoom meeting and more than 790 people attending or looking at our Facebook Live feed. All right, so okay, so let me share with you in the next few minutes an overview of how we can be able to communicate using the digital stage that is now thrust upon us. Okay, so I don't know if, especially our Filipino friends are here, I don't know if you recall this personality. Do you know her name? You can write down in the chat room. What is her name? She was the quintessential, iconic representation of the stern librarian, okay? Unfortunately, Meli Tagasa, all right, Miss Tapia, popularly known, passed away in 2018. And I think her passing also signified that, hey, librarians are not really like Miss Tapia. Our librarians today are young, they are professional, and they are so knowledgeable and excited to be not only collectors of books, but also brokers of information. So we welcome our new librarians to this call, and I think people who are working in libraries or using libraries make up more than 70% of our audience, all right? So, and to all our friends, you know, coming from as far away as Dubai, there's an Indian high school there, namaste to all of you, and Burundi also, right, represented here. So welcome to all of you. And let's frame this webinar within the context of what we just went through. And I referred to the elephant in the room, the big COVID-19 induced pandemic. What happened here, according to Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, the successor of Bill Gates, he said in April of last year, he noticed that we've seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in a matter of 2 months. So immediately it became necessary to do things online. Okay? That's a challenge that still for many of us remains. But I think we have to move on. We have to adapt, and we have to make use of these new platforms with which we can communicate and share information like good librarians do. All right? So, okay, so you want to be effective speakers, okay? And you want to be on the digital stage, okay? All right, that's a great thing to want, but are you ready for it? Okay. I will not pretend that at the end of this webinar, you will all be like experts doing it. But let's just say that within the next few minutes, that we will have enough references and maybe build up enough confidence so that next time we are asked to speak on a digital stage, we will be able to perform our role with excellence and confidence. The role of the digital speaker is the same as the role of a teacher or a communicator. And it is basically to share information or maybe to persuade people to adopt a certain idea or practice or even product. It can also be to entertain others, just to have some fun times together, all right? Now, for today, our objectives are, well, number one, to explore, to get to know what is this digital public speaking as an emerging medium, all right? And we also want to strategize and learn what are the best practices so that we can effectively speak online. Thirdly, and this is something that should become personal for all our attendees, we should be able to prepare ourselves mentally to take on the role of a performer on the digital stage when required, all right? So, now, what do engaging performers on this digital stage use? I would like to refer to 3 things: the head, our hands, and our heart, okay? Like a good teacher or communicator, it all starts from the head too, you know? Everything that we know, everything that we have been trained to do, that's something already in our head. But getting this information, these messages from our heads to the heads of our audiences is a big challenge. There can be many things that could impede us from doing that successfully. So, but we are, I think, prepared to do this because we are trained to be librarians, to be teachers. We are good students, all right? And that's fine, okay? We are subject matter specialists. That should boost our confidence. Why? Because we have something to share. We have a domain that we actually master, and we can communicate that effectively. The other thing is our hands. And this has to do with how we perform on that stage, okay? Our hands are the manipulatives, okay? Our hands means that we're able to manage our presence using the tools that we have available for us. Do you know, for example, what are the key features of a Zoom room? All right? Do you know how to use the chat room? Nakita ko, I noticed that people actually use the Q&A feature in the Zoom meeting to share their names. Well, that's not really the place to do that. No? Maybe you can share your names and some greetings in the chat room. But Q&A is for questions. So, meaning to say, we really need to be masters of this tool that is now made available to us. There's one platform that became really successful and highly utilized during the pandemic. It is Zoom, right? So we need to master Zoom and other similar platforms too, because other companies, other organizations prefer one platform over another for one reason or another. But the third part that we need to use is our heart, especially if you're on stage. This is where people see that you care for others, that you are able to establish relationships, and that you leave a lasting impression because, in a way, you have inspired your audience. This is the heart. So head is your intelligence quotient. It will get you your job. The hands, all right? That is your ability to perform, all right? That will get you probably a very satisfactory rating at work, but it is the heart at the end of the day that will get you your promotion. So, just some academic backgrounds, okay? Some models of communication theorists, okay? What happens in a communication situation is you have a sender, somebody who wants to communicate. It can be the librarian. He has a message, okay? But he needs to send this message across to another recipient, probably a student, a library user. But for him to do that, he has to encode this message, okay? And send it through a channel from which it is decoded before it is received by the recipient. Okay, this is the Shannon and Weaver model, 1948, just after the war. The war actually gave rise to computers because there was a lot of, codes and, Morse code. Okay, those are one of the things that they used to communicate before. They kept things in secret. Okay, in fact, the Turing machine was actually a predecessor of the modern day computer because it was something that you coded instructions into. All right, so all of these things, the theorists at the time were thinking already along the lines of computing. But I think in general terms, it helps us understand that there are many participants in a communication process. Chiefly you as the sender, but also what is your message and where do you send it, the channel, and who is your audience, the recipient. Okay, let's not forget that framework, because in our checklist for effectivity, this should be considered as well. And then there's feedback, and that's why we're asking you to sign in a feedback form. No? Now, I'd like to highlight Marshall McLuhan because he in 1964 he came out with a book, Understanding Media, which I think is still relevant to us this day. Okay, and he's famous for a few things like his message. The medium is the message. Okay, so during the war they used to send homing pigeons to transfer messages or codes from one area to another. Okay, so if you were using that medium, well, you had to learn how to raise pigeons. Okay, so our medium is the message, and we shape our tools, and thereafter the tools shape us. Okay, that's a thing to think about. Now, the new electronic interdependence recreates the world in the image of a global image. Global village. Look at the world today. In the pandemic, we have really become a global village. Okay, we need vaccines, and everybody all over the world, will have to plow through it, negotiate their way to getting the vaccines to their localities. No, so thinking about trials and effectiveness or efficacy levels, that's a global issue. And everybody has a stake, something to say about it. Okay, so Marshall McLuhan, when he first came up with that Hashtag, the medium is the message. Actually, the book came out with a typographical error. It said, the medium is the massage. And when they told him, sir, there was a typographical error, and he said, okay, go on with that. We can make use of that still because, after all, yes, the medium is the massage. The medium is what you will use to become more influential, to become more effective at communications. And thereafter, there were 4 ways to go about it. So you can either say the medium is the message, or the medium is the mess age, because sometimes we put ourselves unnecessarily into a big mess, all right? But it can also be the medium is the massage, okay? It is what will temper your positions to make it more acceptable. Or it can also be the medium is the mass age, because especially now in the age of social media, everybody can say anything on their own platforms, okay? So things have turned around quite radically since then, okay? Now, online public speaking, also known as digital oratory, what is it? It is thesis-driven. You have something to say. It is vocal. Yes, people who have mastered their vocal powers actually have an edge here, because this is where you showcase, your ability to project, your ability to dramatize using your voice, okay? And it is a public address housed within new media platforms, okay? So there are new media platforms coming up almost overnight today, all right? But like all other public speeches, an online speech should be well prepared, organized, well reasoned, and well rehearsed. You just don't get on the stage without any previous preparation, right? Now, if you're worried already, well, just take comfort that, the expert in anything was once a beginner. We always need to begin somewhere, and it is practice that makes perfect. Enunciation, pronunciation, okay? Projection of your voice. All of these things you will become better at if you practice. Okay, so online speaking opportunities are not created equally. Each speech will have different goals, okay? So you can speak about anything that you are prepared to speak about. If you are a librarian, there are probably many things that you can share to your clients, okay? So our librarians, for example, because they cannot accept clients to the library anymore because of the lockdown, well, what they have done is they have conducted virtual library trainings or virtual library tours to students from various schools around the country. And I think that's a great show of their mastery of their science, okay? So, and they know what they want to say, and they know their audience, and that's why they can become very effective communicators, okay? So, if you're presenting a speech live, you're speaking synchronously. Synchronous, syn, the same, and chronos, time, this same time. So I'm speaking here, and I'm sure people in the Zoom room can hear me instantaneously, and those on Facebook can hear me almost instantaneously. There's a slight lag, but that's fine too. It's like almost instantaneously. However, you may also speak asynchronously, meaning to say I speak now, but like 5 hours later, somebody gets hold of the recording and he can experience my talk as if like he or she was actually attending this webinar, okay? So synchronous and asynchronous. Now, in synchronous speaking, what is nice is you can adopt face-to-face public speaking strategies, including live audience feedback. See, live audience feedback is when people applaud you, okay? That's fine in a face-to-face setting, but in a virtual setting, you may need to ask people to use the clap sign, all right? Or to say something congratulatory in the chat room, okay? In asynchronous speaking, you're able to control the content more easily because you can record it again. And if there's a technological error, you can still fix it, just like the 12-minute video you watched earlier about the 8 lessons we learned from the pandemic. That was recorded and you watched it now. That was given like January 28th. And now, like a month later, almost a month later, you're still learning the same lessons from the recording. Now, new media has expanded the audience pool for public speaking. I said, you know, more than 962 now watching us on Facebook and more than 500 on Zoom. Oh my God, that's more than any physical audience that we can ever handle inside our institute at any one time. Huh? So new media has created opportunities for us, okay? Traditionally, when you have a face-to-face meeting, you have a training session, yeah, 40 people to a class, that sounds really reasonable, okay? But now, it's like, you think in terms of multiples, because the digital stage allows you to engage a much broader, a much wider audience. So if you're speaking publicly, physically, you know, your audience is right there before you. And you can count them. That's why they are discrete, no? You can count them individually. You can see the colors of their clothes. But in an online speech or performance, you may have a dispersed audience. And sometimes it's like you really feel like you're just talking to a monitor. Whereas in fact and in reality, you are engaging an audience that you do not necessarily see, okay? So let's take a look at some of the tools that you have to master when you are performing on the digital stage. The number one is your microphone. Now, tell me, in the gadget that you are using to access this webinar, where is your microphone? Do you even know where your microphone is? It's very important that you know where your microphone is to check that it is working. And also, you know, it is an appropriate distance from you, because if you come very close, then your sound will change. Or if you're too far away, people cannot hear you very well. So your microphone is a powerful tool. Make sure that you use it to your advantage, you know? So you need to sound good on stage. And the first thing you really have to check is the high quality of your microphone, all right? What do you need to do? That's why before this webinar, we really had to check our microphones. A sound check is important. We need to stamp out echo. Sometimes there are amplifiers or digitizers that produce a kind of echo to a recording. Now, we don't need echo when we have a webinar. Why? The simple reason is that we are not in a karaoke bar, okay? So do away with the echo. Now, make sure you're not too close or too far from the microphone. As again, if you're too close, then you can be like deafening. Or if you're too far, you cannot be heard very well. If there's sound processing and it's distracting, don't use it anymore. But sometimes there are applications like Crisp that you can use to reduce background noise. Especially those who are using headsets, you know, they can probably control that also. Now, the other thing to check is your internet connection, because, hey, it's not always available and it's not always reliable, especially here in the Philippines, no? So make sure that you have a stable internet connection. If you're in a place where the signals are not good, move to another place where the signals are better. All right. So, because verbal delivery is key in a digital speech, then your vocals need to come to the fore. And we don't like you to be just a voice, all right, behind the slides, and your body is not visible to an audience, but your voice can carry a lot of meaning. So to be more effective, you have to practice and practice and practice to be perfect. Okay. So record yourself. Okay. This is a good advice. Record yourself on your smartphone or maybe on your iPad or laptop, okay, or a computer. And don't keep that recording to yourself. Share it with your coach, your teacher, your mentor, your friend, your office worker. All right? So ask them for their opinion, ask for their advice, their criticism. Then you can say, okay, this is an area I need to improve in. Be humble. No, don't think that you are a superstar already. You're just starting here. So consult other people. Okay, ask for their honest opinion. They will tell you whether you are effective, you sound lively and full of energy, or whether you are flat or you're not interesting at all. Okay, so some friends are really brutal about their comments. That's fine too. Now, sound and projection are variables that can affect your verbal delivery in digital contexts. Earlier, I was feedbacking to Irene because her microphone had some static. Static is a noise, you know, and it can actually distract people from your key messages, and it can influence your credibility as a speaker and the likelihood that your audience will continue listening to you to the end. Okay, so avoid noise. Okay. And there can be many forms of noise when you have a digital meeting or presentation. The other tool that I want you to focus on is your camera. Now, point to me where your camera is, okay? Just point it to me, okay? Because some people don't even know where the camera is, and that's why they're not looking at it. They're looking elsewhere or looking at their notes. When you look down on your notes, what do they see? They see your head. And in my case, you know, you see that I have no more hair. Okay, so I have HIV. Head is visible, all right? But the camera, what does it do? It's an optical instrument used to capture an image. And it uses light to capture that image, all right? Of course, now cameras are so well advanced, very advanced, they adjust themselves. They already capture the light, and they can actually like manipulate how much light can be allowed into the picture. No? So what's visible in the video, how you really have to check. And that's why rehearsals, very important, because that's where you check, you know, what is visible in the video. Remember, when people watch you from a monitor screen or from your laptop or iPad or even from your smartphone, they look at a rectangle, okay? And you have to know exactly what's happening, what's captured within that space, okay? What's visible in the video? You need to be conscious that the camera presents you within that framework. So, where is the camera? How many cameras are there? Okay, if you see Corina Sanchez, one of our television personalities, sometimes they're looking at you here and then they turn and then because there's a second camera there, right? So that happens also. And we can do that also even in Zoom meetings. No? Now, be aware of those cameras because you have to maintain eye contact with your audience as much as possible. Don't lose that. All right, somebody's calling me. What is this? Hold on. Sorry about that. You see, that is what we call noise I was making a presentation and somebody calls me, and the call came through to my phone as well as through to my iPad. So that's noise, distraction, unwanted. Take it away, right? Keep your eye contact though, because that is your link to your audience. Eye contact is still a very key part of a digital presentation. Now, how do you look good on the digital stage? Okay, because your camera is an optical device making use of light, you have to know your light conditions when you perform. Okay, so if you can, sit facing a big window in front of you, light in your face. Okay, if that's not available, you can have artificial lighting. You can have, many lamps are now available. Ring lamps are very good, very, very portable and cheap, all right, available now. That's good too. Now, you also control your background, okay? Because people are so critical, what they see within the frame, sometimes they can make them laugh at you, okay? Now, the camera has to be positioned right. I prefer that the camera is just slightly above your eyes. Why is that? Because if you bring the camera down and you're looking down at the camera, what do they see? Your audience will see your eyes are half closed. They will even suspect you're sleeping already and you have not even begun your speech yet. So bring the camera a little higher above your eye line, okay? So that to your audience, you are bright and alive and energetic, ready to speak to them, okay? So just one trick, all right? The other one is fill the frame. Don't be too distant that you're only a tiny portion of your screen, nor too close that you suffocate the screen with your face, okay? Now, what do you wear when you are in a digital stage? Wear something appropriate for the occasion, okay? If it's an office meeting, wear something that is good for the office. So some office attire will require you to wear a collared shirt, for example, or a dress, depending on the culture of your office, right? So wear something appropriate. Now, wear something bright and solid. Solid colors work very well, except probably red, because red is a color on a digital platform or in front of a camera has a tendency to bleed. In other words, it will look different, okay? And even white can become so resplendent, okay? It can reflect a lot of light. You will look like an angel if you have very bright lights and you wear white. Okay, wear something solid but another color. Now, remember also that there is a mute button. When you speak, you unmute yourself, okay? Sometimes it happens that in a conference or in a webinar, you forget that you are already speaking, but you have not unmuted yourself. That's another thing that you have to consider. Make sure you know what are the controls available to you and use them to your advantage. Don't forget, your facial expressions are also visible in a digital speech. So those who are very adept at making themselves up using makeup, that's very good. But don't use evening makeup during a daytime presentation. So there's such a thing as appropriate makeup also, okay? But your facial expressions, okay? The way you engage your audience, okay? The way you smile, don't forget, you can also smile. Huh? They record how your message and they imprint that message in the brains of your audiences. Now, check your background, whether it's messy or distracting. I will show you later a few examples of what is distracting background. All right, here we are in picture A, up there. Okay, what's distracting there? And probably seen this, no? It's an office conference, early morning. And then guy on the upper left corner, after the meeting is over, stands up, gets his coffee, and everybody sees his boxers, and the girl had to like call him and tell him, hey, we're all watching you. Okay. So be careful about what you show on your camera, because it can really be distracting. It can be messy. Okay. In letter B, this is a digital background that is chosen, but I think it's not appropriate for the purpose of the meeting. Okay. And it makes him look different and funny, right? In letter C, there's an inappropriate picture at the background of this guy attending a webinar. So people will tend to focus on that picture and what the farmer is doing to the cow, all right, instead of him as a speaker. Do away with distracting elements in your background. You can always fix your background. In letter D, this is it's a webinar or a meeting. And I think their teachers and their principal used an application which changed her face into a potato. But she didn't know how to get out of being a potato, so she remained a potato all throughout the webinar. Okay, so avoid that. If you have to use an application, make sure you master that application. All right. What about this one? In letter A, so he is talking to a few CEOs of major companies. And all of a sudden, his pet jumps in front of him. Okay, now that's a major distraction, even if many people love cats. Now, in letter B, what do you have here? A presenter, and you see it's very formal. He's dressed up for a formal presentation, but all of a sudden, his daughter, a young girl, comes to the door and greets him and asks him questions, and is followed by a younger boy, and the nanny, I think, is running after them and bringing them out of the door, closing the door. It's so funny looking, no? The letter C, okay, this is an early morning report. I think she is a newscaster, and she's talking in Spanish, making a report. And all of a sudden, the husband comes out in his briefs. Now, so that's something terribly funny. Okay, so if you use front light, look at the effect of light on your face. It just makes your face very clear, right? So we encourage you to employ appropriate light. Make it come from the front. Make it come from behind the camera, okay? Look what happens when the light comes from the back. Automatically, your camera will adjust itself and will darken your face. Now, not the kind of image that you want to project online, okay? So move your light or move yourself to face the light, or if your light is portable, move your stand or lamp in front of you, okay? You can also choose to put your lamp to one side and create what we call raking light, okay? In photography, this can be very effective, okay? In fact, I also prefer it because when the light source is in front of you, sometimes it can hurt your eyes. And if you're staring at it for some time, yeah, you can have a headache at the end of your presentation. So I prefer, and this is my setup now, look at what I have done, okay? So I have a stand, my laptop is in front of me. I have a second lamp, a smaller lamp to my left, but my ring lamp is to my right, both on the side, not in front, okay? Because this creates raking light. So the effect is, it's not full front, but it's still very helpful. And it actually helps contour your face. It gives a lot more details about how you look on that stage, okay? And look, I have my notes in front of me. I can actually write down notes. This is a very convenient setting, okay? See the light effect, raking light effect. Now, some more tips. Are you still with me? I hope you are. Okay. So during the webinar or web conference or your presentation, make sure that you will not be interrupted. There's so many things that can happen. If you want to take down notes, keep them at hand. You can also keep a glass of water because hydration is part of is key. I think you can think better if you are hydrated. So keep things within reach. If you can be seen, use the technology to your advantage so that you are not an entirely disembodied voice talking over slides. Okay, you have to be seen. Okay, now practice, walk through, make sure your camera is working well, and picking up your voice. Clothing, we've talked about that, and be conscious of your lighting. Light should be coming from behind the camera. So, at the end of your performance, you need to check, was my thought process okay? Did I detail my speech in a way that could be easily understood? Did I perform on that stage well? And lastly, did I leave a positive impression on my audience? Did I even inspire them? Did they learn something new from me today? So that's a very good checklist at the end of your presentation. So as digital public speaking is evolving, I hope that these tips and tactics can help you not just avoid major problems, but also cross the finish line to an effective presentation. Okay. There, we have learned about pivoting, performing, and excelling. Pivot, you cannot do things face-to-face, you do things online. Perform, yes, you still need to perform. If it's a digital stage, you still need to perform on that stage. The third one is excel. You have to be the best. Why? It's a privilege to be presenting on the digital stage. So PPE, pivot, perform, excel, that will be your savior in the pandemic. And that will ensure that you will not only thrive, but you will survive through difficult times. Now, let me show you some examples of great speakers. Probably you didn't know about them, no? But in 2020, leadership speakers were the following. I don't know if you know any of them. I know Pocholo, he's been a voice master. And I know Jesse, he's used to be with Inquirer, he's a good friend, all right? And he has a program on the new channel, okay? So there are other people, and they come from different backgrounds. Some are into sales. Joey Garcia is the owner of Rai Rai Ken restaurant, the Japanese restaurant group, okay? And there are sales people. Now, who are the 50 most popular social media influencers in 2020 in the country? I'm sure you know some of them, okay? Number one there, in fashion, okay, Catriona Gray. In travel, it's Trisha Gosingtian, okay? And in food, there's Erwan Yusuf. And for entrepreneurs, there's Kim Jones. All of them, no? Coming from different backgrounds, but still being very influential because people follow them. People like and share what they're sharing with their audiences. And that's how some of these celebrities have thought it well to like monetize on their popularity and their celebrity status. Okay, so I don't know if you know, but look at the pictures that they use for their promotionals. You see, they make very good use and very effective use of light. Who are the top 10 Instagram influencers in the Philippines? Last year, number one is somebody you all know, with 15.8 million followers on Instagram, Ann Curtis, okay? She can even monetize that. And there's Pia Wurzbach, Catriona Gray, and many others. Okay. Oh, so lang lalaki of the 10, there's only one guy here, James, okay? And in Twitter, look, see? Nare-reflect din sila in Twitter. Ann Curtis with 13.9 million followers. Jose Marie Visceral, Vice Ganda, okay? Also 13.9 million. followers. Okay. Fastest growing include Alex Gonzaga. Okay. Again, there's Ann Curtis there. Now, I'd like you to, if you have time, to listen to some of the best TED Talks in the Philippines. This was an earlier list in 2016, but they're still very, very interesting speeches. These are recorded speeches, but it can be, put yourself in their situation when you make a speech. TED Talks are designed so that you can explain a radical idea, an idea that can change people's lives in less than 18 minutes. That's all you have to explain yourself, okay? So it's a very interesting concept, and it can be a challenge for us too, right? So take a look at this. I will share this video with you, and you can do this in your spare time. Okay. Now, I will end here, and I really want to thank all of you for joining us today. I don't think listening to me over 45 minutes or so will make you an expert, but this is just the beginning of a journey that you personally can take to become a more effective speaker, a more effective presenter on the digital stage. You can pivot, perform, and excel, and I wish you all the best in the days ahead. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the very informative and inspirational discussion, Sir Richard. And according to our audience, your voice is very calming, sir. I mind you, our director is a very good singer, actually. So you can also invite our director to deliver talks depending on the topic. Yeah, so clap, clap, clap now, sir. Okay, so I have also learned a new vocabulary. That's HIV. So sabi ni sir, HIV is head is visible. Sabi naman po ng division chief namin, hair is vanishing. Ayun. Okay, so one important thing that we need to do is to practice. That's according to sir. So practice with your voice, your projection, and be mindful of the light, your camera, your background, facial expression, and eye contact. Okay, so in delivering talks in the digital stage, we need to check on our head, our strategies, right? Our hands, that's where our passion is, and our action. Okay, so before we proceed to the Q&A portion, let me remind everyone that the webinar evaluation link will be posted just before the webinar ends. Only those who successfully finish the webinar and accomplish the evaluation form will be provided with certificates. Okay? So let us now proceed to the Q&A portion. We have here several questions posted, Sir Richard.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's start from this question from Ms. Florale Inayan, one of our Zoom participants. Okay, so Ma'am Florale says, overcoming fear of speaking in English has always been a great struggle for both Filipino teachers and students. What is your stand on the acceptance of non-standard, non-traditionally spoken, or non-native pronunciation and grammar in public speaking classes?
All right, so English is a language. It's an international language. It's one of the most commonly spoken languages around the world. And on one hand, there's correct English, which is acceptable in most polite conversations. But there's also like many variations of English that can be acceptable depending on the circumstances, okay? So if you're making a formal presentation, if you're making an academic presentation, the academics will expect you to speak good English, right? But if you're talking to your family, you don't even have to speak in English, okay? Even if some of the words that you use may be in English. Why? Because it's a more lingua franca kind of thing, right? So language is just a medium. Remember medium? Okay? That conveys meaning between the sender and the receiver. Okay? So, should it always be correct English? The Queen's English? It depends on the circumstances around your presentation. Okay. Now, how do you overcome the fear of speaking English? Oh, it will not vanish overnight. Okay. I mean, I am fortunate that we had very good English teachers from high school, and in college we had a language or speech laboratory, and that is where you really listen to yourself and like improve your projection, your pronunciation. You see, everything can be studied. Okay, so it's up to you to do that. Now, if you have not done that, if you were not fortunate to have that kind of experience, you can still do it in your own spare time. Okay, but you need a good mentor. That's where somebody who speaks better English can coach you and help you along. So if you're afraid now, just start doing something to change your condition, your situation, and you will become better at it. Okay? Nobody becomes a champion the first time around. You have to try and try again. Okay? Next question.
Thank you, sir. We have here from Sir Arthur Guerrero from Facebook Live. What is the best public speaker? The one who have knowledge of or sharing his or her experience, or both? Right. What is the best what or who? What is the best public speaker? The one who have knowledge of or sharing his or her experience, or both?
Okay. Knowledge can be very cold at times, you know. When many academics, that's why they seem to be boring, because they just say so. They just explain things like that. But I think because your receivers are also humans, and they interpret, they decode your message, and many of them decode it in a way that's more acceptable to them, I think you can make your messages more palatable, more relatable if you use or share personal experiences. If you make yourself a little bit more vulnerable, then people will relate to you better, will accept your messages even more wholeheartedly. Okay? So, yes, again, the context of your presentation. If you're making an academic presentation, you can be as cold and straight as the rest of the academics. That's fine. But if you're talking to a popular audience, you need to be a little bit more popular too. Okay? So, konting dramatization will help. Okay? Because that's how people like accept messages. So if you have those skills, you hone them, you sharpen them, and then you can deliver much better.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have another question from Sir Anthony. Good afternoon, Sir Richard. May I ask if this communication model you discussed can be related to math? I guess human communication may not mathematical in nature. Please clarify.
Come again, if this can be related to?
Math, sir. Math.
Mathematics.
Yes, sir. Mathematics.
Well, you know what? Mathematics does not have to be an out of this world subject. Okay? I had a very good geometry teacher. I was so impressed by the way she made abstract concepts real. Okay? And so if there was one science or math course that I liked the most, it was geometry, because my teacher was able to express herself very well. Okay? So is it difficult? I think it can be challenging, but it is not insurmountable. Okay? So teachers of mathematics, you know, everyday life brings us in front of math problems. So we have to make use of these problems that people encounter every day. You have to pay something. If you are not given the correct change, you You just don't complain. You have to complain so that you will be given the exact change. So very simple analogy there. So make it more relatable by bringing it down to examples that people experience in their day-to-day life.
Okay, thank you, sir. And we have here questions from Miss Mara del Calar Isguera and Miss Mirna Marquez Rivera. I think these two are related. The first question is, how long should my lesson be to still be engaging to a young audience? And how far should a teacher go motivational online to learners who seem demotivated?
All right. So how long? Well, that depends. I mean, I think if you're a teacher, you only have so much time to deliver your content. Okay. And even if it's blended learning or online, yeah, you have a limited time. So I think it's making use of available time to express yourself or to share your lesson. And I think you can divide your time effectively by varying your lessons, okay, or the experiences that you share with your students, okay. So you've probably heard of the multiple intelligences approach to pedagogy and all of that, So if you're able to, within that period of time, if you're able to bring your students across through various experiences of the same subject area, then you will have been more effective, I guess. All right. So how long? Most of the time, we don't have the luxury of enough time. We can only deliver our content within a specific period of time. So let's work within that. Again, practice makes perfect. If you deliver that lecture twice before you actually deliver it, the third time around, it will sound much better and much better prepared.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next one. What are the strategies that we can use in speaking in front of students when it comes to not that good speaking in English?
Strategies to speak to students who do not speak English? All right, so
yes, sir.
All right, if your students don't speak English, speak their language, okay? Except when you're teaching a very technical field, like some sciences, then you have to use the scientific terms. But yeah, speak in the language that your audience will understand. I think that's key, number one. Now, if your students, if your class is not very comfortable in English, will you not speak English to them also? I think we have a duty to raise up the level of competencies of our students. So if you're good in English, actually, you just speak in English. They will pick up your good English. And it's better for them to pick up the good English of good English teachers than to pick up the English of teachers who don't speak good English. All right? So if you're confident about your English, go ahead and use it. Next.
Okay. Okay, sir. Next one from Kyla Marie. How do you cope with stage fright when it comes to public speaking, whether you are a student or a teacher? This has been a struggle of mine for years, especially when speaking English. Are there ways to cope up this stage fright or perhaps advice? And this is related to a question from our Zoom participants on how to overcome nervousness and phobia in speaking in front of audiences.
All right. So revisit your idols. Sino ba yung mga idol mo? Who are the great speakers that you follow, you idolize? Then behave like them. Okay? It's not always easy. I mean, people who are thrust onto a stage, yes, they do get butterflies in the stomach. And I don't mean butterflies who fly. You know, it's something that you feel inside you and you're so knotted, you are so nervous. You need to get that out of the way. And how do you do that? It can be a physical thing. You know, there's such a thing as adrenaline, you know, because it's something that your system injects into your body so that you can perform better. So you make use of that new input into your system. And if you're so energetic, sometimes you cannot even talk, you cannot begin to speak because nabubulol ka na. I think you can do something physical even before you enter the stage. This is what public speakers do. Do something physical. You can jog around if you have the space to do it. Or you can just shake your hands, because this kinetic energy, releases some of that pent up energy in you. Okay? So do something. You can even clap your hands, Just don't make too much noise. So do something physical, okay? I mentioned water. Water is a great thing also. Water calms you down. So it's a good tool when you're speaking. You will notice many public speakers have a bottle of water near them. You also get dehydrated kasi when you perform, right? So it's good to have water beside you. And water keeps your mind alert. So you can still remember your cues. You can still remember the things that you have prepared, right, before your presentation. So there is no better way to let go of anxiety or fear during the performance than preparation. Most, let's say, ballet dancers, these dancers have performed the same routine countless of times. When they're on stage, it's nothing to them anymore. They don't feel anything anymore. Why? Because they felt something during their practice, they reinforced it, and when they're on the stage, they're just replaying the best performance they've ever done. Okay? So practice, practice, practice. Kabahan ka talaga if you did not practice and you are on the stage, right? And maybe in some occasions, you just have to say, I'm not ready for it yet. I'll talk to you another time, okay? That's also a good way out. Rather than make a fool of yourself performing on a stage you are not prepared to perform in.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have here another question. Hi, Giselle Palero here. I've been hosting webinars for schools, for school and work. But I'd like to ask, what can you tell aspiring communicators or public speakers who are struggling to keep their audience throughout the webinar session?
Have you ever watched a magician perform? And how he keeps the audience so enthralled, so focused on what he is doing? I think the challenge is for us to be magicians also. And sometimes we can achieve that kind of attention by doing something totally unexpected or different. But that trick is for people who are experts already. But you can start by varying the activities. Because students, if you listen to a lecture for 15 minutes, after that, they will just zone off, they will tune off, and they will do something else. But if you shift the activity or the experience into another activity, okay, then chances are they will still follow you, okay? And sometimes it's a virtual meeting like this. You can ask people to tap themselves, tap yourselves, because it's a way to keep you like awake. Yeah, it's good for the speaker. It's good for the audience too. See, by just asking them to do something physical, right? So you keep them awake. You keep the circulation moving, and everybody is engaged.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're down to 4 questions since most of the questions are interrelated. So, nasagot na rin po yung iba. Okay, from an anonymous attendee. Hello, sir. Do you have any topics po in creating an impactful introduction in digital speaking? What's one thing po that you need to consider in getting or keeping your audience attention on you and your speech?
The moment you come on stage, you already have everybody's attention. You only have 3 seconds to keep that attention. So the first things you say, the way you look, the way you sound for the first 3 seconds, these are crucial to keep your audience interested. How do you maintain, how do you even escalate that? You move from one high point to another. Your kind of logical thinking can be very attractive. And if you move from one thing that they can relate to another thing that may be surprising or interesting to them, then you have moved them along. You have paced them, no? You have led them on. Okay, so that's a challenge for any speaker. That yeah, I mean, anybody who performs on a stage is challenged to keep the audience attention well through to the end. And again, there are many ways to do that, but it's practice that makes perfect.
Okay, thank you, sir. And we have here from Ahmed Samia. Good afternoon. Thank you po, Sir Richard. My question is, what practices or activities students can do while they are in their homes to improve their speaking skills? Considering po that the interaction between the teachers, especially language teachers, are limited. Thank you po.
You know, I studied Spanish in school, but nothing prepared me for speaking Spanish in Spain. Because once you are there and everybody's talking so fast and so loud, and you're still conjugating in your head, but everybody's already saying and expecting you to say something, it's difficult. You know what was what I found most instructive when I was in Spain and learned how to speak Spanish was following television. Because television contextualizes the language, all right? Ito sasabihin mo pag galit ka, okay? This is how you express yourself when you are doubtful or somebody like crosses the line. So how do you like express yourself like that? So the context is there already. The words just come out, no? Many of these words you already know. Like all of us already know many words in English, but it's putting them together in the proper context in response to, let's say, a conversation, all right, that challenges us. Again, you know, the faculties of observation are there in your students, but how do you make them engaged? My first job, I was a Spanish language teacher. And, you know, at the time, this was in 1983, okay? Everybody hated Spanish because they were just enrolling in it because it was the requirement to graduate. But I had to do something different in the classroom to keep their interest. And sometimes I'd bring a guitar and I'd teach them how to sing songs in Spanish. Madali naman. And when you sing something in another language, that's exactly how you train them to speak in that language, okay? And people remember the songs I taught them. And it was so comforting later to receive letters written by my students, and they tried to write in Spanish. And if I were to rate their letters sent to me like a few years later, I think they were very good letters. 80 to 90% ang rating noon. So that means to say, kahit pa paano, naging effective naman tayo. Why? Because we made them use the language in reference to their common experiences. Ang dami pa nating, 20% of our vocabulary is Spanish-based. So we can really build on that. No? So in the same way, our English, everything is in English then also, no? If you look at culture, entertainment, movies, concerts, even the Koreans are speaking English. So why can't we? We actually have an advantage and we can build on that. So yun.
Okay, thank you, sir. Last two questions. Okay, from Ma'am Juanita. How can we approach a person in the position who needs to improve his skills in speaking? He's not my boss, but a friend. The moment he speaks, let listeners get annoyed.
Alam mo, there is a test for English as a foreign language. So I think if you have to qualify English language speakers, maybe it's good to require them to pass the test of English as a foreign language. But I'm joking, you know. um, so if there's somebody who annoys people because of the way they speak, and it is your prerogative to let them speak or not, don't make them speak. You will only grow your annoyed audience. Diba? So look for somebody who can speak better, deliver better. Okay? If the expectation is that they speak good English, look for a qualified person. Yun lang yun. Competency-based recruitment comes into play.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. And last question. Sir, I'll sum the last question into this.
All right.
How to be you po? Yun lang yun. Because they were asking about how
Yeah.
to have some modulate voice, how to be calm. So in short, how to be you po?
Well, I can explain the hair loss. What can you do with that? Yeah, but sometimes, you know, you have the perspective of age, because I've been through a lot more. That means that I've been practicing far longer with more people in different circumstances. All right. So that gives me confidence, no? And yes, I look back and I say, yeah, all of these things that I went through before are now put into play. So full play in a situation like this, and I draw upon my previous experiences and expertise to make a more effective presentation. As I said, my English has been formed by our good teachers, by a speech laboratory that we frequented, okay? And that has helped me, and that can help you as well. But today there are so many instructional videos, you know? You just need to be busy. Because if you are lazy, you will not go anywhere.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And as much as we would like to continue with this Q&A portion, due to time constraints, siguro next time ulit. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, and thank you very much, Sir Richard. Before we proceed to the evaluation, let me invite you to our online library literacy program, or OLLP. This is offered for free. The OLLP is intended for schools or groups with a minimum participant of 50. In this program, we provide orientation on our services, conduct a demonstration on how to navigate our online public access catalog, or OPAC, and we also have the Starbucks Digital Library, including its mobile apps. This is our way of providing assistance online while our library is still closed for the public. If you're interested, get in touch with us and let's set the date. Okay, so we also have here our contact details. You may take a screenshot and you can always send us an email indicating the service that you want to avail. Kindly help us spread the word, and we hope to have you again in our next webinars. To be updated on our activities and services, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Finally, here is the link for our evaluation form. Ay, wait lang. Okay, so sorry, I stand corrected. Okay, before we proceed to the evaluation form, we will have our closing remarks from our supervising science research specialist, Ms. Linderlit M.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So we have come to the end. On behalf of DOST Science and Technology Information Institute Library or the DOST-STII Library, we would like to express our gratitude to all of you who joined us this afternoon. So for your participation, which has enabled us to conduct a highly fruitful webinar. So thank you everyone for your support and your love. We would also like to express our gratitude to our very energetic resource speakers, sa aming pinakamamahal at napaka-supportive na Director Richard P. Burgos. So sir, this will not be possible without you. So thank you very much, Sir Richard. We really learned a lot from your discussion and we will definitely apply those tips that you've shared. Sabi nga po ni Director kanina, an effective speech should come from the heart and we do hope you feel our sincerity. Again, thank you very much for joining us today. We do hope you all benefited in this webinar, and we hope to see you all again on our next webinar in March. We would also like to encourage everyone to please maximize the use of DOST, STII services and resources. So libre po lahat ito, sulitin po natin. See you on our next activity. Thank you and stay safe, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Linder. Okay, so finally, here is the link for our evaluation form. Okay, you may take a screenshot if you cannot accomplish the form today. The evaluation link is open today until Monday morning. Okay, so after Monday, the evaluation link will be closed. Again, only participants who successfully accomplished the evaluation form will be provided with the certificate. Make sure that your name is correct together with your email address. We will not be entertaining messages asking for the webinar evaluation link as mentioned several times. We will be sending your e-certificate along with the recordings of the webinar in 10 working days starting tomorrow. This means that you expect to receive your certificate on or before March 15, 2021. May I remind everyone of our office hours? It is from Monday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So in case you have accomplished the feedback form but have not received your certificate after March 15, kindly send us a message through our Facebook page indicating your complete name and email address. For our Zoom participants, you may leave when you are done accomplishing the feedback or evaluation form. Should you experience problems with the link, you can try refreshing your browser. Sometimes that happens due to weak internet connection. Again, thank you so much, everyone, and see you in our next webinar. Once again, this is Miss Irene Alice Brillo saying stay healthy, stay safe, and God bless everyone.